Yes, good afternoon, students, and welcome back to the chapter number 2, that is biological classification. And as in my previous video, I have discussed what is biological classification, and we have also proceeded up with the detailed classification of monorans. Today, we are just going to start up with detailed classification of the protistans. Clear? So, we are just going to learn about the word protista, that is the kingdom protista, in detail over here in today. So when we are talking about the protistans, as we all know that protistans, they are unicellular organisms. Unicellular organisms. Not only unicellular, they are microscopic in structure. Clear? Then second thing, that most of them, they are freshwater dwelling organisms. Or aquatic organisms. Then the third thing that is to be told over here is that they are, though they are unicellular, but they are eukaryotic organisms. These are eukaryotic organisms. They are eukaryotic organisms, thus they are going to have a well-defined nucleus as well as varied cell organelles. They possess well-defined nucleus and varied cell organelles. And next thing that we are going to see it over here is that these protistans, they are having, of course they are having cell walls, and they are having varied composition of the cell walls over there, plus they may be, most of them, they are locomotory in function. Clear? Most of them are motile in nature. And they move either by the help of the pseudopodias or the cilias or the flagellas and so on. Clear? Then again talking about the mode of reproduction. When we are talking about the mode of reproduction, they reproduce by cell fusion and formation of zygote. Clear? When we are talking about the mode of nutrition, most of them are autotrophs, that is they are photosynthetic autotrophs, but some of them are heterotrophs also, and most of them are parasites also. So they are ranging from all autotrophs as well as heterotrophs. Mode of nutrition is autotrophic as well as heterotrophic. Clear? Then most of them, they are having a great economic importance. Clear? So all in all, these are the general features of the Protestant world, and some of the features that are left behind are that these Protestants, they are not demarcated with the clear-cut boundaries, since most of them, they act as a link between varied living organisms, like the plants, Euglena, as you can see, they form a connecting link between the plant world as well as the animal world, since they are autotrophic organisms, and also as well as at the same time they do possess locomotory organelles also in the form of flagellas. So they are possessing both the features, that is the features of the plants also as well as the features of the animals also, and hence they form a connecting link between the plant world and the animal world. And most of the protistans, they act so while they are dealing up with other living organisms. Getting my words? So now we are just going to proceed further on. When we are proceeding further on and we are talking about the protistans, the classification of the protista, we classify protista into the following categories, that is the chrysophytes, the dinoflagellates, after the dinoflagellates comes the euglenoids, after the euglenoids comes the slime molds, and after the slime molds comes the protozoans. Clear? So this is the classification of the protistans, and now we are just going to deal, that is we are classifying the protistans into the chrysophytes, the dinoflagellates, the euglenoids, the slime molds and the protozoans. Clear? Now we are just going to deal up in detail with each of this subcategory of classification. So moving up ahead, first of all we are just going to talk about the chrysophytes. Chrysophytes, these includes the members of this group includes the diatoms and the desmids. The members of this group includes the diatoms and desmids. Clear? Desmids means the brown alga. That means they are having a brown colored pigment in their cell wall. Clear? Then second feature of them is that most of them, they are marine living organisms. That is, they are found in the sea or in the oceans. Most of them are marine organisms. Clear? Then third thing, that is they are unicellular eukaryotic microscopic structures, and they keep on floating on the surface of the sea water. These are unicellular microscopic photosynthetes which are found floating on the surface of sea water. Okay, again I am repeating by this point that these organisms, they are unicellular microscopic photosynthetic or photosynthetes which are found floating on the surface of the sea water. And such living organisms which are found floating on the surface of the sea water, they are said to be the planktons. So basically these are the planktons. Okay, then talking about mode of I'm just going to talk about the cell wall. Cell wall, they possess a rigid cell wall, and the plates of the cell wall, they are fitted into one another in such a way as we can see the plates fitting in the soap box. Getting my words? So here the cell wall, the plates of the cell wall, they are fitted up into each other as it is found in the soap box. The plates of the cell wall fits up into each other other as found in the soap box. Now talking about the mode of nutrition, basically they are photosynthetic living organisms. As I told you all that they are photosynthetes, so they are capable of photosynthesizing. Clear? Now when we are talking about the cell wall, it is again laden up with a large amount of the silica. The cell wall is laden with a large amount of silica, which makes it indestructible. Okay, due to the presence of a large amount of the silica on the cell wall, the cell wall is made indestructible. Clear? And when these living organisms they die off, they leave up their cell wall as it is, since it is indestructible. Therefore, over billion of years, the cell wall, these deposits of cell wall, they are going to aggregate and they are going to form diatomaceous earth, which is having a large economic importance. Getting my words? So here we can say that these cell walls accumulate over years to form diatomaceous earth. Very important. Diatomaceous earth is very important. Clear? So since as I said you all that the diatomaceous earth it is having a large economic importance, because the diatomaceous earth, it is gritty in nature, and since it is gritty in nature, therefore what is going to happen, that these diatomaceous earth, it is used in polishing as well as refining of the oils and syrups. It is gritty and used in polishing and filtration of oil and syrup. So this is all about the chrysophytes. Now we are just going to talk about the dinoflagellates. So talking about the dinoflagellates, as the word suggests, dino. Di means two, clear, and flagellates is these flagellate word is derived from flagella, which means that these are the living organisms which possess two flagellas. Di means two, and flagellates has been derived from the word flagella. Clear? These are those living organisms which possess two flagella. Okay, again these are marine organisms, marine unicellular microscopic organisms. These are marine unicellular microscopic organisms. Clear? Of course, these are also photosynthetes. They are also photosynthetes. Photosynthetes means they are capable of photosynthesizing and producing their own food materials, means they are autotrophic in nutrition. Clear? Then the third thing, that is they may be either what to say, blue, green, red, brown, depending upon the type of the pigment that is present in their cell wall. They may appear to be red, green, yellow, brown, blue, depending upon the type of pigment present in their cell wall. Clear? And they are having a very rigid cell wall, and the plates of the cell wall, which are made up of the cellulose, they are fitted up into one another. They possess a rigid cell wall made of cellulose which fits into the group of one another. Clear? Then they do possess two flagellas, means they are motile in nature. They possess two flagellas. One is longitudinal and the other is transversal, and it is present in the groove of the groove between the plates. Possess two flagellas. One is longitudinal and other is transverse. Okay, then one more thing about these living organisms, that the red the red alga, or of course the red alga only, the red alga sometimes it multiplies in such large numbers that it covers up the whole of the surface of the sea, due to which the whole of the surface of the sea appears to be red. Clear? And that is known as the red tide. Clear? And these living organisms, when they are accumulating or they are multiplying in such a vast number, what are they doing? They are producing certain amount of the toxins which may be dangerous to the other living organisms present over there. Examples of the red alga are Gonulex, that is given in your books. Sometimes the red alga divides in such large numbers that it covers up the surface of the sea, which is known as red tide. Here, and they produce certain toxins which are harmful for other living organisms. Okay, so this is all about my next point, that is dinoflagellates. Now I am just going to discuss about the next group, that is the Euglena. Next is euglenoids. Euglenoids, as I told you all, that they form a connecting link between the plant world as well as the animal world. They are also unicellular in nature, but they are eukaryotic, and most of them, they are present in the freshwater habitats as well as the stagnant water. Freshwater, along with that, it should be stagnant. These are unicellular eukaryotes. Okay, present in fresh and stagnant water. Okay, then talking about the next, these living organisms, they do not possess a cell wall. Instead of the cell wall, they do possess a protein rich membrane which is known as the pellicle, due to which the body of the Euglena, it is made flexible. Cell wall is absent. Instead, a protein rich membrane called pellicle is present. Okay, then next, when we are talking about the Euglena, it is also having two flagellas. One is short one and the other is long one. Euglena is motile and possess two flagellas. One is short and the other is long. Okay, now again talking about the Euglena, when we are talking about the mode of nutrition of Euglena, Euglena, they are basically autotrophic, that is they contain a green colored pigment which is very much similar to that found in the other higher green plants, and when sunlight is present in abundance, then they are behaving as autotrophs. Autotrophs means they are capable of photosynthesizing, but in the absence of sunlight they become heterotrophs, that is they start predating on other living organisms. They possess a green colored pigment, chlorophyll A, which is similar to that found in higher plants. Okay, in the presence of sunlight, they behave as autotrophs, but in absence of sunlight they behave as heterotrophs. Clear? So this is all about Euglena. Now next is slime molds. Slime molds, these are saprophytic or saprotrophic in nature, and they are found moving along the decaying logs of the wood, even the twigs, stems, leaves, etc. These are saprotrophic in nature and found moving along the dead and decaying logs of wood, stems and leaves. Clear? That is, they are heterotroph and they are not capable of synthesizing their own food material. Clear? When we are talking about the slime molds, they form aggregation, special aggregations, and these aggregations, they are said to be plasmodium. These plasmodiums, they are found under favorable conditions. Clear? So when conditions are favorable, when conditions are favorable, they form aggregations called plasmodium. And when conditions they become unfavorable, then what happens, that this plasmodium, it disintegrates to form special structures which bears spores at their ends. When conditions are unfavorable, then this plasmodium disintegrates to form fruiting bodies. Those special structures are known as fruiting bodies. Fruiting bodies which bears spores at their ends. Clear? And when we are talking about the spores, these spores, they do possess cell wall, due to which they become resistant to the extremities of the climatic conditions. These spores bear rigid cell wall which makes them resistant to extremities of climatic conditions. Therefore, these spores, they are capable of withstanding the unfavorable conditions, and when the conditions they become favorable, then these spores germinate. Clear? Therefore, these spores, they are capable of withstanding the unfavorable climatic conditions for long duration of time. Okay, so this was all about slime molds. Next category is of protozoans, but due to the shortage of the time, I am not dealing up with the protozoans. We will be dealing up with the protozoans in my next video, and along with the protozoans, I would also be starting up with the next kingdom of R.H. Whittaker, that is according to the 5 kingdom concept. We have done 2 of the kingdoms, that is the Monerans and the Protistans over here, and in my next video I'll be dealing up with the, of course, the leftover portion of this, that is the protozoans. Since protozoans, it is also having groups. Protozoans, they have been divided into groups according to their mode of locomotions or the locomotory organelles that they possess, that is the pseudopodians, the ciliates, the flagellates, and the sporozoans accordingly, and we have to study each of them in detail. Therefore, I am not dealing up with that right now in this particular video. I am just going to deal up with protozoans in my very next video. Clear? And in my next video also, I am just going to start up with the classification of the fungi and detailed account of fungi. Getting my words? So read up all the topics that we have discussed over here in detail, and try to learn it up along with what we are doing, because here I am just giving you all this in a tabulated form, in a classification form. It is not in the paragraph form that is given in the book, though everything that is written in the book is being explained up over here. I am not leaving anything over here, but still you should read everything that is being given in the video, and accordingly you should tally it with the books, and you should try to learn them up as soon as possible, because otherwise they are going to pile off. Clear? So pay attention to what is being taught over here in detail, okay, and read the books also, read the content also accordingly, and we'll be meeting up in my next video with the leftover part of the chapter. Till then, thank you.